Hi, champion puppy owners. I'm making another video for a training client, 11-year-old Liam, and his 11-week, soon to be 12-week-old chocolate lab. The main reason why they initially called me, there's a whole bunch of reasons, but one of the biggest things they were struggling with is being able to get Charlie to walk on a leash outside. Now, when most dog owners get dogs, they're like, okay, I'm going to do dog owner and dog things, and I'm going to walk this dog. Until you have a lab that doesn't want to walk and digs in and like really puts his brakes on. So some of these things that you might think are going to come natural, like a lab retrieving. Once we get him going, he should be fine, but you'd be surprised. There's a lot of labs who initially don't like water or don't like or don't take to retrieving until we kind of turn that on, right? Sometimes things come natural and sometimes things don't. So if I'm working with a client, I identify specific socialization deficits, drive deficits, manners deficits, how that dog just, again, interprets the world that it lives in and what its coping mechanisms are, which kind of goes back to socialization. Because a lot of times people think socialization is just my dog with other dogs or my dogs with kids. But socialization can be environmental and a bunch of other stuff that I'm not going to go into detail on this video. So that was their big issue. And check out right here, right? This is where it's all about to go down. Is Liam's walking away and he hesitates. And Charlie's sitting here thinking, as he's in a sit stay, am I going to go with him? Like he's looking at Liam like he's trained to do. I would have wanted at this point for Liam to be looking over his side to better gauge what Charlie was doing. And I'm not 100% sure because I don't see in the video if Liam put him in a stay or not. If he said stay or if he just started walking away. Because it's important that you tell your dog either to stay or if you want your dog to come with you, you say, let's go and just start walking. It's very important that we are clear. I go over in a prior video that I did for this client that I got their permission to share with you. And that there's 3 different commands that we're going to give from this position. When your dog is in the pocket with you, sitting and staring at you in my system, we're going to say break, which means go do whatever you want. Go sniff something, go run around, go grab that tennis ball or tug toy, go get that piece of food that we're using as both a decoy and a reward. If we do like a food throw drill or we do a food bowl drill, so there's break. Then there's let's go, which means I'm walking, come walk next to me with slack on the leash. That's your heads up, right? And then from there, there's a certain chain reaction that I want my clients to have that I'm tightening up with Liam a little bit in this video. And then next is going to be come. So that's the last one is come to me and sit again. When I say come, that means I want you to run up to me in a straight line and dock. Run up and sit and then stare at me. Right. So I don't know what Liam said before we left here. That wasn't on the video, but that's a question that I would encourage you to ask yourself is, are you being clear with your dog when you're leaving it? Like set the expectation up. So that way, if your dog a lot, like I see in Charlie over and over again, is trying to give you what you want, is willing to work for you, but you have to be clear. Okay. So, I could go down a huge rabbit hole as to how to have that happen, but I have other videos for that. So subscribe, listen to the podcast, sign up, whatever, but hang out with me for a while. And so right here, as Liam's walking away, Charlie's looking at him, but he's also in the back of his mind instinctually thinking like, what am I going to do? And we can change what his reaction is going to be by changing what Liam does. So if you watch Liam, he'll hesitate. And so you'll see this like moment of like, I was going to buy, right? Like I was thinking about it, but I decided, nah, I'm not going to buy, right? And so watch this as it unfolds. So right there, if Liam were to have just kept walking and not hesitated and even started to praise him, even if he was still putting his brakes on. So that might seem counterintuitive or against scientific laws and theory that don't praise a dog while they're putting their brakes on because you're reinforcing that. Yeah, maybe. But what I've seen after working with thousands and thousands of dogs is that once you start praising them, it helps get them off that fence, that like mental like hurdle of them coming to you that they're like, okay, well, he's not stopping, obviously. He just called my bluff. And he's praising me. And that energy, you moving over there, not just like calls his bluff by him feeling a little bit of pressure on the leash, which we spent a good 2 weeks having Charlie be more sensitive to having pressure on the leash and having to be more of a guidance tool versus just a tug of war tool, both on the owner side and the dog side. So I wouldn't have done this drill with Liam and Charlie 2 weeks ago because he would have put his brakes on. It would have been too heavy-handed to have gotten the job done. But what we've done is spent 2 weeks of doing pressure release drills up and down the driveway, doing some work in the house so we can expect for it to work out in the cul-de-sac, out in the neighborhood, okay? And there's a reason why I have them starting here on a quiet street in this cul-de-sac, and then you'll see in the next video, he graduates to moving over to the sidewalk. There's less stuff in this street, believe it or not. As we're looking at this street, there's a ton of, this is like early springtime, so there's still like crap all over the street, especially in their neighborhood. So you can see all the pine cones and sticks and things like that. But there's even more smells on the sidewalk. And so the smells are typically what get dogs on the sidewalk, even if there doesn't seem to be a lot. Your street might be full of debris, like natural debris, like this one. It's more the smells because there's other dogs and things like that typically that will get the nose going in another direction. So I tell my clients don't make it harder on yourself than it has to be at first. And we typically start in the street if your street's not super busy. All right. So it's at that exact point that if Liam would have been more assumptive, praised, kept moving back, Charlie would have been walking right by him, so he wouldn't have had to do a bunch of other stuff, all right? So then he puts his hand in his pocket, which then makes it more of a quid pro quo sort of bribery aspect. And so now all of a sudden you see he went from looking away to being like, and putting his brakes on. And Liam's also not in this. And Liam's doing really good, right? He's got a good attitude. He's kind of getting the craps of this at this point. But we're almost there. So after this, he just gets to enjoy the fruits of his labor. But I want him to be in a more assumptive stance, not an assumptive stance, but a better body position. So right at that point, as you feel that they're starting to get tension on that leash, it is dangerous to have that 26-foot leash go the whole 26 feet. Because that's when it might you might have the leash break off, or at the very least break your flexi leash. So I'll put a link to the flexi leash. I love flexi leashes, not for like walks around the city. We don't want a dog getting ran over, but there's a specific context, like when you're doing retrieval, when you're doing off-leash simulation, intro to walking, stuff like that. Flexi leashes are great, but if a car's going to come, we got to make sure we're able to close that gap either by having Charlie come to Liam or Liam in an emergency situation coming to Charlie, breaking that rule of always having your dog come to you. But hey, certain rules are more important, like not getting ran over. So as Liam's right there at that spot, I would have wanted him to turn towards Charlie and put himself in this ready position where his left foot's in front of him because he's right-handed, his rear foot's behind him, elbows close to his rib cage as if you're doing a bicep curl, and his right hand holding that flexi leash and his left hand over top of it, and he would get that quick pop, right? Because we've trained that over and over and over again, but now we're applying it to something else. So it's right at that point, if you start to turn your body, get in that ready recall stance, is what I call it in my system. I have a handful of stances. I have diagrams coming out on that I don't know if I'll release, to the general public, just because I like to keep some of my information paid for, proprietary, but I'll at least cover it with you in passing here, that ready recall stance. And so it's a very powerful stance because your knees can move forward, as can your elbows. So you can really be as light as possible and while just being as well timed as possible. So watch my knees. right? They go forward, and then my elbows can go forward too. So that's great to make sure that you can still keep moving as calling your dog's bluff as they're putting their brakes on, like Charlie's doing right there, and be sensitive. Or on the flip side of things, because I have some clients that would say, I would love to trade in to have the problem my dog putting its brakes on because my dog sees a squirrel and pulls me over, right? So there's these two opposite sides of the spectrum, and we want it. We want your dog to be in this happy medium, right here in the middle, with slack on the leash. And so if your dog's going to run from you, you can do the same thing and get in that ready stance. But you have to always be observant. Yesterday I was going for a run with my Foster over here. He goes to his forever home tomorrow. If you can see him over there, right? I think I'm getting a good angle on that. Beautiful boxer, $1,200 dog. I'm sending him with papers. You can get beautiful, full-grown, decently trained, not a ton of behavioral concerns dogs, Pet Finder and your shelter. So anyway, I was running him yesterday, and there was a lady who gave this massive, like, pity bulldog looking mix to her 5-year-old daughter. Just handed her the leash. So I come running around the corner, and the mom is picking up poop for this dog, and this little girl has this dog, and I'm like, hopefully, I say something to the mom. I was just like, you, and then I stopped, and because normally I would have just kept running, right? I just don't let things stop me, but being safety conscious. So, and the mom just kind of looked at me, and it took her literally 4 or 5 seconds to register. I don't know if she didn't have her coffee yet or what. And then she realized, holy crap, my daughter's literally about to get her arm broken because this dog was jacked. I mean, it was a good looking dog, but that 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, whatever she is, had no right to be holding that dog because the dog wasn't trained well enough and the mom wasn't paying close enough attention. There was a huge gap in their game, and so you always have to think, what if that car comes running, going around the corner in here, or what happens when that guy running a dog isn't going to stop, is going to keep running, is also asleep at the wheel, maybe just didn't happen to see her. So just keep that in mind if you're training out in the street and in general. All right. So sorry to get off on a tangent there, but yeah, safety first. Boom, puts the hand in the pocket. Now I'll say, oh, hey, now we got him, which was fine at first. So Liam, what I'm going to have you do is get away from that. No more hand in the pocket, no more pressure present. That was so a week and a half ago, my man. So from here on out, I want you getting into more of the art and science of dog training using your verbal, body language, leash, and we can reward, but a lot more with praise, a lot more turning it into an event versus just, again, quid pro quo. Because I don't want to teach him, hey, if you bluff good enough, if you put on your brace good enough, you have this kibble parachute, right? This silver lining of kibble that will be produced. And then from there, boom, I would put him in a sit stay. So if he got to you, Liam, again, we're past this, but let's say a dog comes around the corner and we have to resort back to this. So when I say that we're past this, guys, both Liam and my viewers, that means we're past this because there's no other dogs around, there's no other distractions around. We might go back to what we were doing a week and a half ago if the distraction level increases, if all of a sudden we lose momentum from him, that there's not something that we could really have done. Now, in this case, I just went through a couple things that we could have done to avoid getting quid pro quo, bribery-based training.
Much, but I don't think that matters for this. Go ahead, keep walking.
Yep, and exactly. Dad has the right idea. After he eats, boom. Let's not give him a chance to put his brakes on again. Let's not give your dog a chance to go and run away from you again. Initially, for the first month, I want your dog just in the zone with you. Just walking around, slack on the leash, staring at you. Every time you stop, your dog sits. And more praise. So you'll hear his dad give him some feedback of praise him. Go ahead and like say, good boy, good, good. Especially if your dog is looking at you while you're walking. All right. So think about how you use your communication, your verbal communication with your dog all day. Are you using it when it's appropriate, or are you just goobering over your dog for jumping on your lap and being cute and kind of being a butthead? Or are we just kind of not giving that sloppy communication all day long, and then we're really harnessing it for max effectiveness for when it matters the most? And it would be my hope that I could show you how to do that. So if you're walking like that, you need to be able to feel where your dog's at. So I don't know if he is or not, but you'll see me do this a lot where I'm just kind of pick a spot on the horizon, boom, and I'm just walking towards that spot, and that dog's coming with me. But I want there to be slack on the leash. I want these hands to be active as necessary, giving leash. If I'm using a traditional 6-foot leash, I typically use, I like the Mendoza slip leads. So it just depends on what you have. If you're training your dog on a harness, there's times where I want to use a harness versus a collar. I'm not going to go into that. I'll put a link to these on my Amazon store. They're like $15, right? But these are slip leads. You wouldn't use these on little dogs. You don't want to collapse their trachea, but they have not just a slip version of this, right? But they also give you a clip version. So I'll include both in the show notes. Let's see. I'll grab a See, look, even my foster dog knows. I always have leashes. So he sees a leash, he doesn't even get up, right? Oh, I lied. Make a liar out of me, buddy. Thank you. Because it is about that time for that WAOK or RUN. I don't think he knows what a run is. So I can say run. I just can't say the W word. So yeah, they had the same ones, but with a clip. So a lot of times, I'll do both. I mean, I have these things like all over my house, all over my facilities, and typically I'll use like this if the dog's collar is fitted correctly and or on a harness. Harnesses in general are for quantity, where you're just looking to run your dog around the neighborhood, get its energy out, where like a slip lead would be more for quality. So if you are using a slip lead, I know I'm going down a rabbit hole, but just hang tight. I'm gonna bring it back around. You want to make sure that you get this down nice and tight behind the back of your dog's neck. So, come here, big man. I need an example dog. Let's see. So I'm going to get this extra big, right? So before we put this on your dog, we're going to get this extra big. Then I might bring him over here. So you see how I'm going to use the same sort of training that I just brought Liam through, and to bring my foster in position here. So now you see how this is up nice and high behind the back of his neck. So I'm going to grab the dog's like a little bit of that extra scruff. Nothing crazy. We're not scruffing the dog. We're not being mean. But I want this nice and high. And I'm going to cinch this down like right here. So I can still get 2 fingers under snug. But he can definitely feel if I'm giving him guidance on that. So I'm just going to move my chair out of the way. Sorry for that noise. Then I'm just going to walk my little man around. So I'm going to say, let's go. You see how I just start walking? I'm going to bring him over here. I'm going to put him back in place for you. And then I do pressure up, release, release, boom, right? So that's how I'm able to get dogs to chew bones all day, hang out here with me. So if I'm moving around him, because I stepped around his backside, he's gonna wanna stand up. So I know that. So if he was staring at me, right, I wanna say, good boy, as I move him around. If he looks away from me, I might go, just stop praising him or go, right, good boy, good, break, boom. This is how I say, break, and then I pop on that leash, right? So, and then if I want for him to sit, you see how I'm just gently taking my hand and putting it right there on his little butt cheeks, little boxer brindle butt cheeks, and that's inducing him to come up here and sit right where I want for him to sit. So that's how I'm able to get super great photos of dogs. I'm able to get dogs that don't really have good sit stays. Like let's say I'm bringing a client's dogs to the vet, I can get them. So like if I want him to go back into a sit, watch, I'm just gonna put my hand on his butt, gently, and then when I feel him starting to sit, I'm going to release. So you see how it's not forceful? And I haven't really done too much work with him. I've just been kind of hanging out with him, and just simply by being handled by me, by living in my household, dogs just adapt. And so I don't really do any formal training. Again, if I'm going to work on a longer sit stay, or just in general, I want for him to hang out here with me. Boom, put him right back here. Okay. Mwah. Not yet. Okay, we're gonna go for a run soon. I gotta finish this. All right. So my point with that is when I was walking, as I just did with Chaz here in my office, I generally know where he's at. You need to know where your dog's at. If you're walking away from him, you need to be able to feel your dog through that leash. You need to know your dog's tendencies. You need to be able to have eyes in the back of your head and kind of like looking out your peripheral, right? And the only way you're going to get that level of experience is by reps, by putting in the reps, having fun with it, and being observant as to what's going on when you're engaging with your dog, okay?
Why don't you say good boy and
Yep.
treat?
Boom. So if he's going to stop, I would have postured towards him like I showcased in some of the other videos with Liam. Then from there, he takes that half a step in. He sits. Then you got to be clear with him. What do you want from that sit? Claim that stare. Are you going to put him in a stay? Are you going to say, let's go again? But give him some sort of feedback because he's trying to anticipate what you want from him. Good. Keeps walking, keeps walking. Good. You see how he goes with him? That's what we're looking for. And if you feel your dog starting to slow down, you can, I'm just going to pop another video right here in its place. Get this one out of here. You can just start to speed up, right? So I'm actually going to kill the sound on this one. Boom. So right there, if he is standing, that means you want your dog to come to you and sit in my system, right? If he started to lack in momentum, like if his pace started to slow, you get more of an Eeyore and less of a Tigger. He could have moved back and praised him, right? And if he wanted Charlie to walk with him, he would have turned back around and continued to walk. So that's a difference of saying, hey, I'm going over here, come with me in general as I keep moving versus come to me and sit. I'm not moving, but I want you to me and sitting. So that's where going over clarity, that's the difference. All right, here we go. Boom. So he should have started walking forward once he started coming. So you see how that can, he kind of did like a hybrid model. I don't like hybrid models for this. Sometimes I don't mind doing layering communication or playing things off of each other in my systematic approach. But in this case, I just want it to be either, yep, I'm going this way, super clear, or hey, come to me, super clear. So this is Liam's soon to be. So he went back to pet him because like his dad was kind of giving him feedback. So it's all like delayed and sloppily time, but no worries. They're muddling their way through, just like you're going to. You're not going to do things perfect. I didn't do things perfect. It literally took me years and years and years, hundreds and hundreds of guinea pig dogs and clients and things like that until I started to get, I think, reasonably good, right? So give yourself some grace, give your kids some grace, just kind of keep it upbeat. But his best rep is about to come, and it was on accident because it really showcases what I wanted for him to do in the beginning. But you see like the accidental aspect of this, right? Boop, he hits the end. I know it's the next rep, my bad. But you see he's got his hand in his pocket. We want him sitting instead, right? You don't put your hand in your pocket until he sits and you say yes. This is the rep I was talking about. Walk, 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 walk. Blip. Oops, I did that on accident. And then you see how he runs up. That's awesome. Boom, step forward, sit. But either way, get that hand out of that pocket, all right? So, and get better pockets, man. You're struggling there with them pockets, all right? So put it in your jeans. If you're ever running into equipment issues or like the clothes that you're wearing, you got like chick pockets, right? Where they're like super skinny. And they're like, you're wearing Spanx with pockets. Or just throw a hoodie on, like do something. But in dog training, split seconds matter in regards to clarity and getting a higher level of responsiveness and overall results that you want. So if you find yourself running into the same issue over and over again, like with that jacket coming up high, Liam's 11, so he's got that 11-year-old thing going on. But I see this all the time with my adults that they don't set themselves up for success. You already don't know what you're doing, and then from there, you couldn't have just put on a hoodie versus to go along with your Spanx, So set yourself up for success because you already had the odds stacked up against you because you're a newbie. With that said, I hope you got a lot out of this video. I know I went down a couple rabbit holes talking about some other equipment. We had a cameo by the super awesome champion, Chaz. And with that said, I have a bunch of other resources for you. So don't hesitate to jump on a podcast so you can grow on the go. Thanks for your time and attention. And even more importantly, thanks for implementing this with your champion.